What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sven Emmerich. Welcome to AI Leverage Lab. And in today's video, I will introduce to you Jeffrey, your AI personal assistant using Telegram, using N8N. And what this nice, pretty little tool does, it's incorporating your Google Calendar with your Gmail, with your Google Tasks, and it's combining all these. So if you are using, for example, Telegram, and you ask something according to, let's say, do I have any appointments in the next 24 hours? Then we only have to wait for a few seconds, and it's going to take a look at our calendar, or in other regards, it's going to take a look at the tasks and the inboxes, and it will give us the reply and tell us what is in there, right? So now within the next 24 hours, we have, first of all, English, and we absolutely need to take our melatonin. So if we take a look at our calendar here, we have our English class, we have our melatonin here. And if we were to say, for example, hey, let's actually see what new emails we got, it could say that it didn't receive any because they're all already been read. Let's see. Did I receive any new email in the last minute or in the last couple of minutes or hour? Let's actually make it a little more complicated, right? So let's see if it received anything, and if it didn't, oh, it actually did. Okay, cool. So it received one. It summarized the content to give us the subject, and it also prompted us to see if it should do something with this. And also, if we have our task list here, for example, then we can say, hey, please add to my task list to buy flowers for my wife. And then it just takes a few seconds, and there we go, buy flowers for my wife. So this is Jeffrey, inspired by, of course, none other than Fresh Prince of Bel-Air's Jeffrey the Butler. And let's actually go through the N8N workflow in total, and also through each of these nodes. Now, if you want the whole workflow, just go over to our school community, the AI Leverage Lab, sign up, it's free, and join the community to actually build together, to build your own AI agency, to become an expert in the field, to understand how to think strategically and enjoy it actually, and work with customers and be an important part of their AI transformation journey. So let's start with the whole process. First of all, from zooming out. Though we have a lot that is going in and out through Telegram, right? So Telegram, first of all, if you've used Telegram before, Telegram is great for setting up bots. So it's much easier to set up bots with Telegram than with WhatsApp, for example. So in this case here, if you have used Telegram before, great, then you might know already how to set up a bot and switch that part, skip that part. If you don't know it, then go to telegram.me, telegram.org, and set up your Telegram on your PC, on your Mac, or of course on your smartphone device. Now, what we need to do is we need to set up a bot, right? So what we do is we go to Telegram here, and we are looking for the handle @botfather, and it needs to absolutely have that blue check mark here, because that signals that it's the actual one botfather, because there's a couple others for different purposes, which are not the ones that you're looking for. And I hope you're not giving your data to some bot that shouldn't get your data. Now, what you do have is your botfather here, and you click on open. And what it does is it opens this nice little window, and you can just click on create a new bot. And you give it a name, new assistant bot. And important is the username bot. It needs to have a random username that's not been given to somebody else before, and also it needs to end in bot. So of course I have done this before. You should do it if you want to set it up. And what you're going to get is you will get a token that is not being shown here, of course, for obvious reasons. And that token you can then take and go into N8N and create new credentials, enter the access token, connect it to your account, and from then on you can send messages to and from that bot. So actually, let's take a look at the executions that we've had so far. So the executions were always, let's actually take a look at what time is it right now. It's 5, whatever. So these executions went through our setup here through the next switch node. And that switch node is important because we can not only send voice messages through this nice little assistant, we can also use just plain regular text messages, right? So if I were to say, for example, let's actually add an appointment here tomorrow, super important meeting, not a super, but a super important meeting. And let's say, do I have a meeting tomorrow? Then this will still look at our calendar, of course, and will probably give us all the important meetings that we have tomorrow. Yeah, super important meeting from 12 to 1 p.m. So this means it can go through voice. It can also go through the simple plain text here, right? So once you see the green arrows pointing this direction, and now for the last one, it's not using that path, instead using the one that goes right directly to the set node, which is here, right? So what we're having here is the switch node, and that switch node is using rules, not expressions. And so what it does is it has the option of using voice or text or an extra output in case something else comes in, like an image. This is not set up to use images, so it returns an error. And what this simply is, if you open your notes panel and you type in switch, then this is exactly what it is, right? Now, let's go through the ones that we have here. If this is an error message, it just returns an error, says, hey, sorry, I encountered an error, blah, blah, blah. Not too great, not too important. And more importantly, when we do have the downloaded voice message, let's actually take a look at the executions here and the ones that we executed before. So here in this case, it used the voice message route, went to the download voice file, because now we first of all need to download the voice file from Telegram, right? What we do have is we have our credentials here. We tell it that the resource is a file and the operation is a get, because we want to get that file that has been sent out with Telegram to the bot. And that file has a certain ID, and that ID is in here, and you'll receive that when you work with the bot here and have set it up correctly, right? Then you have some string here, and you get a binary data, which you can see here. This is a binary data. Get a data here, and that is basically the audio file. And that audio file then needs to be transcribed. So you do have to have in this case, we're using an OpenAI node. And that OpenAI node is connected to our OpenAI account. The resource here is an audio, and it should transcribe that recording, and the input name is data. Now, in this case, this is data. If that name up here was different, then something else would need to stand here. And if we go to the editor, take a look at that here, you could also work with other data media types. In our case here, this is set up to audio. That's why this path works. And eventually, this is a set node. So this is the one edit fields node or set node that you can see here. And that set node has basically no other task in our context here than to only return as a string the finished message, right? So again, let's take a look at the execution. And the execution here shows that there's a lot of stuff going in. So from the last couple nodes, but here in the manual mapping, it only outputs the JSON text from the last message, from the message basically. So this is the text. Please add to my task list to buy flowers for my wife, right? It's not using them from the switch node, but instead in this case from the transcribe audio one. And that's why also this isn't simply saying, hey, this is the JSON from the previous node, because if it's not the previous node in n8n, it always needs to reference the actual node that it's from, which is in this case the message and the text from that particular node here, right? Of course, in a setting where you set this up, you would just need to, you could use the what is it called? The parameter, the variable selector, right? So you could just draw that from over here in here. So I'm going to skip this for now because this, I suppose you probably know by now. If not, write it in the comments and I will address this in another video. Now, what the next thing is, we have that text basically, and only that text, that one item is being forwarded to Jeffrey. And Jeffrey, our lovely AI assistant and lovely butler, now has the task to understand what it actually is that is in the message and then act accordingly. So the first thing that you need to set up is a chat model, because the chat model is important for understanding what this actually is. Now, in our case, we have set Open Router to be the chat model, because Open Router just gives us the opportunity to have all different kinds of models in here, right? Set up your Open Router credentials. Let me drink a sip of water. And then you can set basically all the different OpenAI and Gemini and other nodes, other models that you want. In our case here, we're using 4.1 mini because it's pretty quick, and quickness in such a lively dynamic tool as like a chatbot is really valuable. For other purposes, you would probably use a different model. Yeah, so that's how we set up the chat model. And now we didn't use a memory, which is important, because if you set up a memory, then you can have the simple memory here, and the context window length for the 5 last messages are being stored and referenced. And in many cases, you don't want that, because then it's not necessarily looking at new email coming in, but rather cached emails up to a certain point that have been in here for, in the last couple requests, right? So now we go over to the tools section, and the tools show 4 different sub-nodes, and those sub-nodes are one for Gmail, one for Google Calendar, and one for the getting of the tasks from Google Tasks, and one for the task creation. So let's go through them one by one. In this case here, we have set our credentials for Gmail. Now, if you haven't done this, I know by now there are like 1.5 million videos out there how to set up your Gmail Google credentials. Again, if that's something that you need help with, either go to our class in school.com or take a look on YouTube. You're going to find how to set this up. And what we set this up to be is, first of all, we need to tell that in the description, ideally, that this tool needs to be referenced when the user asks for emails, right? Also, it should filter out promotional emails. That always helps to not forward the spam. The resource is the message. We want not only one mail, but many. And it should take those from the inbox, and ideally only the unread emails. And the date is being already taken from the AI agent itself. So let's take a look at the AI agent in here. And from here, it takes the prompt that we've sent out before. So actually, let's take a look at the executions. And in the executions here, we see that the prompt was, again, please add to my task list to buy flowers for my wife. And now the system message down here knows, okay, what to do. Hey, you're Jeffrey, helpful AI personal assistant, blah, 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 and output what it has done. I have added the task to buy flowers for your wife to the Google task list. Okay, so what is actually in here in the system message is the prompt. And in this case, the prompt, as is mostly the case, it needs to understand its role, or rather its capabilities. What can I do and what should I do and not do? So in this case, it's enough to have a little, like a little checklist here to what to do. For example, when emails arrive, then filter out, first of all, the promotional content and summarize them. When there's calendar events, then ignore stuff that is too far into the future, or manage the Google task and also you work with voice and text. Or when, for example, a user doesn't specify a date, then assume they mean today. So if you go through the results and you're not happy, then add something to the prompt and make an exception for, hey, if this happens, then do X instead. So Jeffrey knows what to do, right? And that is for the emails. For the calendar events, it's a similar thing. So again, you connect your Google Calendar API here, your Google Calendar OAuth, and tell it that this is important for all things related to Google Calendar. And what we want is we want an event, not only one, but maybe many. We tell it what calendar to take it from, because of course we might have different ones. And then the after and before can automatically be defined by the model. So we don't need to do anything. The only thing we should select down here is in the options to say, hey, if there are recurring events, then if there are recurring events, use all of them. Because it could happen that we have, for example, like a serial event here or a repetitious event here. And if we didn't set this to all occurrences, then it would only give us the next one, or it would give us the first one. And if that was in the past, then it would give us anything, right? So if we say all occurrences, then we're on the safe side. But you're free to select and change this. Now, the last step basically is the Google Task tool and subnode. And of course, same thing here. The resource is a task to set those tasks manually. In this case, it's the getting. And in this case here, it's the creation of the task in that particular task list. Now that task list, if you have more of them, I only have one here with 2 entries. And if you want to have a new one, of course, that will show up down here in the task list, or you give it the ID, and that will also work. And then finally, we come to the result after all this has been worked through, and we send out the message again to the same bot as we've had before. And again, let's actually take a look at the executions. What did it do? It used the resource as a message. It sends out the message to a certain chat ID. Now that chat ID is important because the original chat has a particular number, which is somewhere down here. Where is that? Chat ID, and that ID is a unique identifier, so it knows what chat to answer what message. And the text is taken from the output of Jeffrey's AI node. So those together return the result that we want, and that is what we'll get here. So I hope that was helpful to you. I hope that shows you how easily and quickly you can set up a fantastic Jeffrey-like AI personal assistant. Of course, you're free to adjust this to your personal preferences, maybe add different tools, maybe have images in here and stuff that it should also characterize or add to your Google Keep or whatever. Maybe you're not working with Telegram, but with WhatsApp, or you're working with Outlook and not with Google Email. So feel free to play around with this. If you want, sign up over at our School.com community. It's free. Join other creators who are working on becoming experts in the AI field, becoming AI transformation experts for companies. People who want to understand how to make deals with companies, want to understand how to really positioning themselves. And that is what we do over there. I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, give us a thumbs up. See you again. Subscribe to the channel, of course, if you think this was helpful and you want to dive into more of these in the future. And we'll see us again in another video, probably tomorrow or the day after. Thank you so much and take care. Bye-bye.